Welcome to the Feel Good family. So then I'll give it a little backstory. I'm normally try and do this in a couple of minutes. Katie will just wrangle me in because I can speak. But we have really started this idea of travelling Australia. Well, I should go back a little step further to our why, and that was Jasper, to be honest. So we were, like many couples out there, we were struggling to create a family. We were living our corporate lives, and certainly I think the lifestyle pressure of our work life and imbalance of that really was hindering us actually starting a family. Well, 4 years later, and many rounds of IVF, our little miracle showed up. And then when he did, we were still absolutely burning the candle, writing board reports and doing everything that we had to do. And we just struggled with the fact that we'd created this family and we weren't getting to be one. We'd finally got there. And so Kate just said to me one day, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, I'd throw it in, travel Australia, document it. So we got this time capsule of our life with Jasper and make the most of that time now. And she said, let's do it. And anyone who's been through IVF or seen that, we were in a huge amount of debt. We got rid of our unit to fund, and we were in a world of financial pain at that point. And so we worked extra hard, sounds crazy, for another couple of years so that we could actually then fund our lifestyle of travelling Australia for 2 years. And what happened is that COVID actually, anyone from Melbourne originally knows that you guys had it worse than anyone in the world as far as lockdowns. But fortunately for us in Melbourne particularly, we found this amazing audience that wanted to see what this crazy family who'd thrown their life and their careers away were doing travelling Australia. And so that's how we kind of really came to then get through that 2 years, and we couldn't return to the boss. So we've really then found a way to turn it into our life and also our work.
And so fast forward, it'll be 6 years this September. We rolled out the driveway. It was Father's Day. It was the 1st of September 2019. We were so green, like as green as they come. We were more novice than any novice ever was before. We'd never slept in a tent together. We weren't campers at all. We had this crazy idea to change our entire life. And we rolled out that driveway thinking, what have we done? Have we just made the biggest mistake of our lives? Well, fast forward almost 6 years, 180,000 kilometres. The first few years we stuck to the Bitchumen. We loved the caravan parks. We really found our feet. We got our confidence. And then we kept seeing all of these people, these other vanners, in their fancy off-road vans going down these dirt tracks, these remote places. And we thought, we want to go where they're going. We want to see these places and try out this different side to this lifestyle. And so we did. We needed to do some upgrades. We got some new vehicles. And we really haven't looked back. And we love now having a complete blend of our travelling style, but certainly getting off-grid, getting off-road, really feeling like we're fully fledged campers now after all of this time is just the best thing ever. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about getting off-road, getting off-grid. What are the essential areas for anybody who's wanting to do this, step your foot in or do more of this? Or, when we first picked up our Zone RV a few years ago, we challenged ourselves, can we live off-grid for an entire 12 months? And it was the best 12 months of our travels to date. We absolutely loved it. There's nothing like getting to a campsite and there's no power and there's no water and you just feel like you're sticking it to the man, don't you, Dale? It's this complete freedom that you can only find when you're in these wild places.
Yes, harnessing the power of the sun. We love it. So we were asked to really talk about such a trending topic, and I think we feel like we're the perfect ones to do that because we genuinely did not have a clue on what we were doing. So over particularly the last few years and being off-road and off-grid and that first year completely unplugged from power, we've learnt a lot as we've gone. We're still learning. You won't ever stop learning as the tech improves and things change. There's always something to learn. But there were 7 key areas that we found that if you can get these right, then you're probably going to have an amazing time. So we're going to share those with you. Are we going to try
Well, we're going to share some of them because we can talk for hours and the other presenters probably won't be too happy with us. So we'll share 3 or 4 of those 7 key areas. But we have recorded an audio book, and it is our gift to you today. We'd love you, yes, for free to download this audio book because it's about an hour and a half of content that we really delve into these 7 different areas. And it's a quick, simple scan the QR code and you can download that digital audio book to any device. So please make sure you do that. We'll pop that code up at the end of the presentation as well so you can grab that.
I'll just say, Katie, this is actually our number 1 audiobook that we have sold, and but it is genuinely is free. So, and if you're watching this, I'm sure there's people at home and on socials. You can have it free as well. That's fine. We won't tell the organisers.
Awesome. So let's get into those 7 areas, Paul, and where we're going to really kick off. I guess breaking it down into the 7: water, a consideration you definitely need; power, communications, waste,
Testing air.
Food and beverage. What am I up to?
It's like BWS, is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Yes. Where am I up to?
Did you do waste?
Essential gear. Yes, did waste.
And
essential gear.
Evacuation plan, emergency
Evacuation
checklist.
and emergency plans. So we'll do our best to get through as many as we can.
And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. And if you're a bit shy or you don't want to ask the question here, come and see us on the side. When we started, the only silly question was the one you don't ask. You get home and you go, I should have asked that. Yeah, so, and even if you don't want to see us, you can always drop us a line and we'll get back to you for sure.
Awesome. Now, before we get into it, first things first, there are some things that we think are absolute essentials before you even roll down the road or the dirt road, depending on where you're headed. And there's simple things to do, there's simple things not to do.
Number 1 is like each other if you're travelling with your partner.
Always very
rule.
important.
Very
and in all seriousness, though, we do joke about it a lot. But when you are spending any amount of time in a very small quarters with somebody else or your family, emotions can get heightened. Small problems feel like massive problems. So it is really important to be on the same page before you are going anywhere, particularly if you're heading remote.
It really is the same problems, but your home's on wheels. Everyone asks us that all the time. So just think that they just seem bigger because you're in a smaller space, weirdly.
A beautiful part about that, though, is that there really is only one door to slam if you are in an RV, and then as soon as you slam it and you're outside, you're like, oh, look at this amazing environment. You almost forget immediately why you were upset in the first place.
Very true. Now, first things first for us would be education, and it would be arming yourself with as much education as you can. And this stuff is really, we think, minimal costs, no-brainer stuff. The number 1 thing that we would say is go and do if you're towing any kind of rig, no matter what it is, go and do a towing course and do it together.
Oh, 100%. And look, most people that we know traditionally, the husband or the male in the partnership will do the majority of the towing. And that certainly was the case for us. That's how we were going to roll down the road. Going to do this towing course together, it's an expert that's not your spouse telling you how to do things. And so straight away, you're winning, right? That's really awesome. But then on the off chance that something happens and you do have to step into that role, for the person who isn't predominantly the driver, getting that confidence. Paul broke his ankle. We were 3 months on the road. And he leapfrogged Jasper. He was being a great dad. They were playing. And he clean snapped his ankle. And then he was in a moon boot and couldn't drive. So I had to step into that role. And I'm so thankful for the education that we did.
What was amazing with that gentleman, Wayne, it's almost 6 years ago, he was really encouraging as well. So getting that encouragement from someone who's a qualified trainer is also priceless. I think it just gives you that little bit of confidence to adventure beyond your own sort of, your beliefs. Yep. It's good.
Absolutely. Another thing we would say to do is to get your setup weighed professionally. No, we're still on first things first.
Listen to the boss.
Look, I've got the clicker. That's why I've got it. Go and get your setup way professionally. There are so many mobile weights and towing services around the country now, but we would say definitely do that. Don't put your head in the sand about it. You want to know that you are legal, safe, and within your vehicle's limits, and also understand, all the acronyms and how they affect your particular setup. A four-wheel drive course is another one that we would say definitely do, particularly if you're heading off-road or really remote.
Yeah, living on this, world's largest island, the beaches are breathtakingly beautiful, and the fear of getting stuck really can determine whether you venture down there. And we'd say we were so worried about that. And then now having done it with a van, that worry didn't change. I just gripped the steering wheel harder and just put my foot down and hope for the best, But
we know what to do if we do get stuck.
And with that training and understanding, sand driving masterclass and self-recovery and momentum is very different to speed, and these sort of things that you can learn from experts will make the world a difference. The whole idea of everything we're going to talk about is taking away that pressure and stress so that, you can, if you do get into trouble or it hits the fan, that you can get yourself, comfortably out of it and calmly as well.
Absolutely. Another definite, and probably what we should have spoken about first, is a first aid course. An essential, we think, for anybody who's out there, whether you're going for a weekend or away, school holidays, or you are going to be hitting the road for an extended period of time, go and do a first aid course. Stay tuned. Watch this space. We've been working on a project for the last 3 years that we're really excited about. We think it's going to have so much value to all of you and the industry, and we've worked with a whole bunch of different experts to bring this together. It is called RV First Aid, and we will be launching that a little bit later this year, so please stay tuned for that.
Just on that, it's over 10 hours of video content, so it's all at your fingertips. There's 70 videos delivered by 10 experts. It's not just first aid. It's everything to do with four-wheel driving, weights and towing masterclass, pet responsibility and how to travel with pets, and kids, keeping kids safe at camp. It's all of the people that we've loved to get to know through the community that are experts in their field, delivered right to your fingertips. So yes, watch this space. It's called RV First Aid.
Yeah, you can stay up to date with that across our website and our socials as well. And lastly, we should say, Paul, go and do a recce. If you're new to this, or you've got a new rig or a new setup, you've upgraded something, go and do a bit of a recce before you actually hit the road proper. Pull up in somebody's driveway or find somewhere that's not too far from civilization, and really figure out, well, how do these systems work? How does your power management system work? How much water do we use each day? How quickly are we going to burn through our supplies? Do that while you're somewhere near all those places that you can. I'm just dropping down to Bunningsdale because we've got something else we need for the caravan.
Anyone else go in for one item and come out with like 10?
It's just standard, isn't it? Yep. Same at BCF or Anaconda or any of those stores. But you don't want to find yourself somewhere really remote and then have something that's not working properly or a surprise. We are all about reducing stress, because you don't want to be stressed when you're caravanning and camping. No way.
No, that's right. And crazily, stuff happens. I mean, Jasper split his head in the most remote places. I mean, his head split, but over on that west coast there, 500 kilometres from anyone, and he split his head open, and, we didn't have the right first aid gear. And so next minute I'm gaff taping his head while trying to pull a drone in, and, it's just crazy stuff. And then I broke my ankle again and broke my ribs up before we went to the Cape, and
We've had
stuff happens,
all of the experiences over that 5.5 years, and they say what doesn't kill you absolutely makes you stronger. So we've learnt a lot, and we love sharing that because we were so green. So it's been a really great evolution. All right, let's get into it.
Boom. Okay, so first one, water.
Yes, water. Not all water was created equal. We can definitely tell you that. And we've experienced all different kinds of water as we travel around the country. You stick on the East Coast, you've got that beautiful town water to tap into that seems just to be free-flowing from every tap. And then as soon as you start to get remote, it changes the way it looks, the way it smells. And then some places, it might be hard to come by. Mm-hmm. So we've got some tips on gear that will definitely help you out, particularly when you are going to be off-grid.
This is one of our favourite locations ever. It was $15 a night. It was in a 40,000 acre sheep station. Anyway, it was one of the most remote outback Queensland locations we could find. But look, what you're looking at here is us using a submersible 12-volt water transfer solution. What's great about this is that if you're worried about your mobility or lifting jerry cans in and out of the vehicle, you can just lift this thing straight into it, and it transfers weight straight into your van or to your rig. The other thing that it does is it means that you don't have to drive with the van rehooked up to go and get water back in Exmouth when you didn't want to leave your campsite. You can leave the van and buy yourself some more time. Really, it's about staying for longer in these amazing places. How far can you go with your consumption of these things?
In our setup, we have 3 tanks in our Zone RV. One is dedicated to drinking water, and we love this setup. We've not always had this, but it's definitely made a difference for us when we've been travelling remotely. We'll fill that 80-litre tank when we know the water quality is excellent, and that lasts us a pretty long time. And then we know that because it is separated from the other 2 tanks, it's not going to get contaminated. If we do need to fill up with less than ideal water to do our showers or our washing in, so having a separate drinking water, whether that be a tank in your RV, whether that be containers that you carry, like we love these ProQuip jerry cans. We don't work or partner with ProQuip, but boy, they're a great Aussie product, and we do carry those for these moments when we are going really remote, so that we can access water without needing to hitch up and move like we did in Exmouth.
Exactly. These ProQuip products, you can hold water in them for 6 months. That's phenomenal. And they're twice as much as the other jerry cans you can get. I think they're like $45 or something. They're at all the retailers. Like Katie said, we don't work with them, but a good Aussie-made, Aussie-owned product that does exactly what you need it to do. And that's really it. You want stuff that's going to be reliable. If you need to store water, you can't have any light pollution, so that means no bacteria, which is pretty important. You can filter in and filter out. You'll probably hear this around the industry, and what that means is having a filter at the fill point into your van, and then having another filter after the pump at the other end into the tap. After our travels, we've never had a problem with water. Jasper and I drank bad water up in the Daintree. That's not true, but that was actually in the world's, oldest rainforest, and we were out there and we're drinking and,
mucking around in the creek in Mossman.
And we were both really crook for months. But there were stock animals 300 metres up that we didn't realise. And this is the problem. You don't know what's there. But we couldn't figure out. He kept complaining every time he'd eat. We'd like, eat your dinner. And I said to Kate, I don't feel so good either, until we finally figured out that's what it was. So, filtering in, filtering out. Look, not necessary, I don't think, if you're going to be showering. Filter the water in and out that you're going to drink for consumption. Really be careful of that. But it takes a long time if you're using really good filters, obviously, to filter in and filter out.
And if you are wanting to, get filters, we would say definitely do your research, because, again, not all filters are made equal. So really look into it. There's so many different products on the market. So do your research and find what fits your needs and your requirements. And pretty well we would say that across the board with every product, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not here to promote the most expensive thing is best. That's definitely not our style. But we would say, try and do your research. But if you can buy something once, instead of multiple times, you're probably better to pay a little bit more for quality than end up with paying a lot more overtime for quantity.
I have to say, we love our little adventure pump to be able to fill our caravan water tanks when we are remote and off-grid, but gee, we love it even more for washing down the back of our van and being able to project movies or the State of Origin. This is that great off-grid camp Paul was telling you about. State of Origin night last year, we're soaking in bore water from the artesian basin that comes up at 100 degrees. We had to fill this tub and then leave it for hours before we could hop in. We had a little cheese platter and a glass of wine, and it was just us, a few head of sheep, and nothing else.
And an 80-inch screen of live TV, which we'll talk about in communication in a minute. How are you able to, get instant streaming of anything from anywhere around the world.
Connectivity, Dale. Love it. But let's talk about power first, because this is also really important when you are going off-grid. You want to be able to stay in these places longer, and you do want to be able to make sure that you've got enough power to suit your needs. For us, we are a super power hungry family. I mean, we live on the road full time, we work on the road full time, we educate. Jasper is road schooled, homeschooled. So we've got a lot going on. We've got a lot of gear and equipment, cameras, computers, coffee machine. It's an essential when you're living on the road like we are. We have a lot of things that draw power, so we do need a really big power setup. But this would be an area, power, and you say suspension as well. Yeah. The two things that we would say to you, invest your money into if you are wanting to get to these places and you want reliable gear, power and suspension are the places you need to really invest your money.
Yeah, definitely. Again, not working with Red Arc, but we will stand up here and promote Australian companies every day of the week. They're an Adelaide-based business, and now have taken their skill set and knowledge of their products to the world. We've had Enerdrive systems as well, but currently everything in our van and in the 79 is Red Arc, and it's reliable. If you have to troubleshoot, they've got 24/7 Australian on the other end that can talk you through your problem. It's just great stuff, and we would, hand on heart, say that their gear is awesome. We currently have just picked up, you probably have seen if you've been watching, our new off-road Zone RV, which is very exciting. It looks exactly the same as our last one, to be honest. You're like, what's different? The main difference would have to be the power system. So there's 1,260 watts of solar on the roof. It comes down through a new system called Alpha 100 Manager into 800 amp hours of lithium batteries and a 3,000 watt inverter, all Red Arc. Solar panels are not all made equal either, so really do your homework there, because the cheaper versions are not going to be better. I could almost guarantee that. Solar blanket is another thing that I think would be a really good idea for those times when you are out west and it's so hot that you're looking for the only tree possible to park under, and then you can run a solar blanket out just to top up your batteries. That's worthwhile as well. Absolutely.
I don't know whether it's just us, Paul, but we're finding more and more that travellers are travelling less with a generator. The technology is getting so much better so that you can go without these extra products.
And extra weight.
Exactly, yes. And so a fold-out portable solar blanket is a great idea. There's some other neat little nifty products on the power side that we love to talk up. Again, we don't work with these guys, but there's a little product we use, which is the NOCO.
Yeah, fantastic. It's basically like a jump starter for your vehicle. The one that we have is, I think it's referred to as a 2,000 amp jump starter. They have varying sizes, but off one charge we can jump start our V8 Land Cruiser 40 times. But also that can then plug into every type of other device, laptops, like it can charge everything, which is really great. It can power our little 12-volt submersible adventure pump. Excellent. You can put it in your backpack. It has SOS lighting on it as well. It only weighs, I think, maybe 2 or 3 kilos. So another great bit of kit to have in your vehicle, but also to maybe carry with you if you're going to overnight somewhere and know that you've got a reliable source of power just to keep you. In a lot of these situations, you'll need something powered to be able to communicate to a satellite, or, and you don't want a dead phone in that moment, or a dead a PLB, personal locator beacon. You'd be in a lot of trouble if you couldn't power that.
Yeah, excellent. Something else that we should talk about when it comes to the power too is fuel, Paul, and a long-range fuel tank. And is that necessary? Do you actually need a long-range tank to get to these places?
Look, when we started, I would say no, you wouldn't. Now, the travelling that we've been doing over the last couple of years, I'd say it's a great idea, or carry at least one 20-litre jerry can. For us, in that setup there, we're using 22.5 litres per 100 kilometres. So when you're paying $3.20 a litre...
it hurts,
doesn't it?
$3.29
$3.29 actually at Curtin Springs. you're chewing through your fuel and your cash very quickly. But having a 20 litre or a long range fuel tank so you can get past that absolute peak of the price and then come back out the other side is a good idea. Crazily, we've seen places like Marla this last trip up the centre where the FPOS was down so no one could get fuel.
Or the tankers, are due to come, but for whatever reason haven't. And so the station is just completely dry. And there's 20, 30 caravanners all pulled up there just waiting. Everybody's got their awnings out, making a cup of tea, waiting for the truck to come.
Yeah, and you deal with it. But yeah, having some backup fuel. Touch wood, we've never run out of fuel. We've had one moment where, out on the M1 up in sort of north of Gympie, there was as there is regularly terribly, about a fatality on the road up there. And I think because we were kind of caught up in that moment, and then I missed the next service stop and we kept driving, and I said, Kate, you meant to remind me we were meant to stop. It's always her fault.
It's always the navigator's fault, isn't it? Why didn't you tell me that?
Anyways, luckily we had the 20 litre jerry can, but what we also have is a diesel heater. But now what we have is a diesel hot water system. So I have two backup plans, I guess. I've got 10 litres on each side of the van that fuel the van, because the vans are now gasless, as a lot of these products you'll see around here are going. So having a backup plan is key to, you're getting yourself out of trouble as well.
Your little phrase is a backup of the backup. One thing to mention, though, and this goes for water as well, is that really we've been surprised travelling around the country now for so long. There are water fill points, there are places to pick up fuel, particularly diesel, really no matter where you are. I mean, you have to be seriously remote to ever find yourself with a real problem. We've never gotten to a point where we've thought, oh goodness, like how are we actually going to access fuel or water?
We have picked up bad fuel once. We've probably heard more stories about my mate's mate who was camping, broke down and perished because he had no, bad fuel. So not quite that bad, but you get what I'm saying. It's not that common, but it does happen, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to communications. Now, we are, again, going to talk
Look
about...
at Jasper's face. He's the most animated little kid. We've tried scripting him when we first said, could you say this? Nah. He's on his own
off the
trajectory,
cuff, so much better. That's what happens when you give Jasper 2 marshmallows, though, that you get that reaction. So, gotta love that. Okay, communications. Again, we're going to talk about some essential gear that we would recommend, but also some of this kind of communication that will save your marriage or save your travelling relationship.
Excellent. So we mentioned liking each other, which is important.
Yes, very.
Let's actually start with the 2 key communication recommendations from us for you working together to get the right outcome, and that would be...
Get the job done, isn't it?
Yeah, get the job done. The first one is called GOAL. So it's an acronym, GOAL. It means get out and look. And we have to thank a family in the States who were our inspiration. We meet people all the time and they're like, oh, you inspired us. We binged watched you. And for us, we actually binged watched an American family. They're, I think, now into their 10th year, and their 3 little kids have now gone to uni and left, and we've cried and watched them leave, and because you feel like you know these people, right? Which is what people say to us all the time. We feel like we know you. And but they're just such a beautiful family, and they were very wholesome, and their content's really polished. So that was who we modelled the Feel Good family off, to be honest. But they gave us this one, and it's really integral for the driver to get out and look. The only time that I didn't get out and look, you would have seen I rolled the 79. Probably it was a pretty soft kind of accident, but a hideous situation at the time. So get out and look, very important.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that'll save you at the campground. You won't be the afternoon entertainment. And we do it. I mean, the amount of times that we've reversed a caravan over the 5.5-year period, I don't know, it would be thousands by now. But we still do it every single time. And for the 30 seconds that it takes Paul to get out of the car and have a look and get a lay of the land, he also, we can be in some places where there's not a single tree, there's not a single camper, like we're the only ones there, there's nothing to hit. So why would he get out and look? He also has this picture in his head of how he wants the van to be positioned. So we can try all day long and be on the same page, but if he gets out and he can say to me, he does this little L on the ground with his boot and he says, see that mark there? That's where I want the back of the caravan to be. And boom, we're on the same page. It's so easy. Okay, the other thing that we would say is use language to suit your relationship. We use driver's side and passenger side. So when we're reversing the van into a campsite, I never say to him, because I'm outside of the caravan, Paul's in the driver's seat, I've got my UHF radio, which we'll talk about in a second, or my mobile phone. I'll ring him. We never shout at each other. And I'll say to him, well, we shout at each other afterwards behind closed doors. Now, and I'll say to him, push the caravan, the back of the van, to the driver's side. Now, he knows exactly what I'm talking about, and it wouldn't matter whether I was at the back of the van or at the front of the truck. You can't confuse that. The driver's side is his side. So driver's side and passenger side, it'll save your marriage. It'll make you much happier pulling into camp.
It is gold. You're so right. It will save your marriage. And it's amazing to us, but it's just, I think, the Australian way. But people pull their camp chairs out and go, righto, let's see how he goes with this, eh?
We've literally had that, haven't we? People come out and sit on the curb to watch us roll in. And, we love that. It's all part of it as well. But you don't want that added pressure, So let's quickly talk about, because we've got to get through this, right? We're taking our time. Must-have gear. UHF radio, as we mentioned, absolutely essential piece of kit for anybody, whether you're going remote or not. We travelled, which is hard to believe, for the first couple of years without a UHF radio, and now we just look back on that and think, how did we do that?
And the reason we did is because we didn't know.
That's right, and you don't know what you don't know, but we would say this is one of the most important things to have as a traveller on the road, not only for communicating with other travellers and truckies, which keeps everybody safe on the road, but for those times when you're at camp so that you can communicate. If you don't have mobile phone service, you can easily jump on your radios. Also at camp, the boys will go off exploring. They've got a radio, I've got a radio. I can radio them and say, come on, dinner's ready, or where are you, or this is happening. It's a great way to stay in touch. And we would say if you're travelling with kids or grandkids, teach them how to use a UHF radio. Again, so important. It's a great skill for them to learn and they'll have fun with it. But God forbid, if anything ever happened and the adults at camp can't reach a radio, or you're in an accident and you can't access that radio in the vehicle, we know 100% Jasper could pick up that radio and call for help. He knows the emergency channels and exactly what to do to be able to get somebody to assist.
It's excellent. The other, I think, thing to talk about with the UHF radios is to have a few. We've got a hardwired one and then a couple of handheld ones for at camp, little 2-watter for Jasper. But the real good, the best complement to this would be a reverse camera if you're towing a rig of any size. And the reason is that you can then see from 300-400 metres back, out there on the Stewart Highway up through the centre when a truck is approaching, if they're wanting to overpass. And we would say, look, 99% of the time they're on a schedule and you're not, they've got a job to do. So lose the ego and get out of their way, But to communicate with them very clearly and concisely, do you want to know how to talk to a truckie on the radio, or does everyone know? Everyone feel comfortable with that? Yeah? Okay. Sure. So the best thing is that I'll be able to see in my safety, Dave, and again, that's just the product we have. I'm sure there's loads of others. And we use GME handheld radios. Again, we don't work with them, but Australian made. I think mostly their products Australian made, but Australian owned. Again, great products. They're reliable. But I'll see that truck and I'll say, "G'day, mate. I'm towing the zone van. Let me know when you want to come around." And straight away, we're mates, instead of just a pain in the backside,
Just to keep the truckie, on board, that we've got a little one in the car, he'll often say to him, "Oh, my little man thinks your truck looks really cool in the reverse mirror too." And that way, when the truckie responds to us, he knows we've got a little one in the car. They're generally very respectful with their language, aren't they?
Yeah, look, it can be very colourful.
Yes.
And Jasper, we were talking at the Gold Coast show just last weekend, and Jasper pipes up and he goes, I've heard all the colours.
Yes, it can be very entertaining, but all in all, they're generally really respectful.
They really are. Once he's ready to come around, he'll say, I'll stick my head out now, mate. He'll come around. I maintain speed, okay, until he is beside me, and then I just let off just slightly and whoosh, he's straight past. Just maintain your line. There will be a vacuum if you've got a bigger rig. That's normal. Don't think there's anything wrong. Just hold on, breathe, you know. By the time you've done it 1,000 times, like the first 3 months, I gripped that steering wheel so damn tight because I was just so worried about these trucks passing us. But it's fine, you know. And once he's passed, he'll say, thanks, mate. And he'll give you the blinkers. You've seen him do that. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah. And he's on his way. And you say, thank you, have a great day. So that's pretty well it. Just really clear in your intention and you won't have a problem.
Awesome advice. Another great product we would say everybody should invest in is a personal locator beacon. You know, it's one of those products that you spend $500-600 on and hope you never have to use. But again, you've got it. And it's hard to believe, but there are still plenty of areas around the country that doesn't have mobile phone service, some of them just a few hours off the east coast too. So if you are in those places and you don't have the ability to pick up your phone if you need to call for help, having one of those little devices is great. We love hiking, so we'll take it with us. A lot of these national parks don't have service in them or very limited service. So knowing that we've got that little device clipped to our backpack, we can call for help if we need, we can send a text to say we got to camp safely, or send a tow truck or whatever it is. Again, it's just a great piece of safety kit.
Excellent. And the final one would be Starlink. Now, whether you're educating your kids or yourself on the road, or you love binge watching Netflix, or your favourite AFL team, or
working
footy.
From the road.
Yeah. For us, there's also the peace of mind factor that you've got to consider for this. Starlink, by far, is the number one game changer that we have experienced in this industry in our last, 5.5 years. And for all of those reasons, there's been a couple of times that we've relied on it for out-of-the-box kind of thinking. We broke down. I could FaceTime my mechanic.
In the middle of nowhere, because we didn't know what to do.
And he told me what to do and how to get ourselves back to
You're
help.
Awesome at lots of things, Dale, but mechanical stuff is not one of them.
Thanks.
No.
And what's the list? Just rattle off a few? No, I'm kidding. So besides that, we also lost our drone. Anyone been out to Lake Eyre on the Oodnadatta? Oh my gosh, isn't it amazing?
Out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a sea of white. But when you put the drone up, it just looks the same, the landscape, for like hundreds of kilometres. So to lose a drone out there, and we literally did, the drone just took off, had a mind of its own. We had no idea where it was or how to find it. We put our Starlink up and were able to track the last recorded GPS coordinates of the drone, and then Google Maps that to try and locate the drone, which we did. It was amazing.
Yeah, Kate's like, it's 380 metres that way. You've got to go get it. So, and sure enough, it was right there. So amazing. It's amazing.
So much more than entertainment, Starlink is also great for safety and security. Let's talk about waste really, really quickly, and then we probably should wrap this thing up.
Okay, waste. This here is Litchfield National Park. Anyone been there? Yeah. We think it's the least effort for the most reward, in that when you get there, you park, that's probably the longest walk, and that was like 1.6 kilometres. But most of them are 300 metres from your car park. It is that sort of experience, and you'll be the only ones there. So it's remarkable. And people do ask us, well, how come you're droning in a national park? We go through the months of, permits and paying and all of that generally, whatever's needed to get these permits to film in these places. Yeah.
The thing with Litchfield is that the entire national park has no waste collection. So if you are going to camp in Litchfield, and they have a number of campgrounds within the national park and a couple that border the outskirts, there's no rubbish removal. You do need to be fully self-sufficient. So, when you're going to these places, you don't want to just go for a few days. You want to be able to go and make the most of it. So thinking about your waste and how you're going to manage that is a really big part of this whole off-grid, off-road lifestyle. So for us, we have a couple of rear wheel bags that we use. They're great for all of your recyclables as well. You can squish them all down, squish them in there. How many litres is our our MSA bag on the back.
55 litres.
So it holds a lot. It holds a lot. A lot of these places, as we travel around the country as well, particularly the farm stays, will have the farm animals and encourage composting of your fruit and veggies or your food scraps, and that saves so much rubbish space as well. So, just thinking about all of those little things, talking about, I guess, human waste and what we create as well. Yep. We switched over when we upgraded into our Zone RV. We went from having the cassette toilet, which we'd run for the first 2.5 years in our previous van, to a composting toilet, which we absolutely love. In all seriousness, we could probably stand up here and do a whole presentation on why we love the composting toilet. But it has changed so much the way that we are able to travel.
Has anyone got a composting toilet? It's a bit of a weird question, isn't it?
Do you guys love it as much as we do? Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's, again, you probably could say that's a game changer as well, because finding a dump point every 2 or 3 days versus every 3 to 4 weeks with our last one. Our new one is called an OGO, which is so much better again, but we don't get as long, maybe 2 weeks versus 3 or 4. But an amazing system, no smell, and we don't work with them.
And no water usage either.
We can honestly tell you our experience is amazing. So as far as being able to stay somewhere for a longer period of time and not be worried about your waste, that definitely is a huge improvement on what we had prior.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this lifestyle, we've found over this 5.5 years, we've really become conscious consumers, and when you are living in such a tiny space and you can't have all the things, it really makes you become very aware of what's important and what you need, what you don't need.
Jasper hasn't got that memo yet. He's not a conscious consumer. We've actually got a rule with him because, weights are everything. Again, make sure you know your weights. But we've got this sort of one in, one out. And I'm sure all his friends just think we're like the worst parents, like he has to swap out. He gets a new Lego thing and that means that the Thomas tank engine train set has to go,
No, but it is a good thing to think about, and making sure that whatever you've got with you on your travels is multi-use as much as possible, and there are amazing products out there that can really enhance your lifestyle and keep you from feeling like you need it all, because of course weights is very important, so you do need to be thinking about that.
It's a really good point. We thought we needed it all when we started, and the more we travel, the less we need. We've certainly found that. So you don't need it all, and we would just, encourage you, if you're in that planning or dreaming stage, or you're just waiting for the perfect time or perfect gear, don't. Obviously be measured about how far out you go, that you can still communicate. But, just do the weekend warriors. We're so gifted in Australia. We honestly think it's the world's best backyard, and a lot of these national parks are within 2 or 3 hours of where most of, 95% of the Australians live. So to be able to access these places is a gift. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you are in that realm of dreaming or planning or thinking about getting started, we do have another presentation this afternoon over on the Let's Start stage, where we'll really delve into a bit more of our journey, how we got started, our why, what we did, the planning, the preparation and all of that jazz. And we've got some great tips in that presentation too. But we did want to just quickly talk about the resources that we have on our website. We do fund a lot of our travels through creating our digital ebooks and travel guides that are on our website. But we also have a lot of free stuff up there as well that we'd love to encourage you to get on and have a look, particularly if you're planning a trip to Tasmania. And if you're not planning a trip to Tasmania, you should be planning a trip to Tasmania, because it's amazing for caravanning and camping. And there's a lot of free resources up there. There's also a weights, acronyms, downloadable. So if you're struggling to remember what all of the different acronyms mean when it comes to your tow vehicle and your caravan, that's for free. You can download that as well. So heaps of good resources. And please do jump on and grab that audio book. This little pop-up will come up on our website. Just pop your email address in there and that'll be an instant download for you off the QR code as our gift to you today.
So good. All right, how do we do? Pretty good?
I don't know what the time is, but I
1:45.
can't see anybody waving frantically at us to get us
we're
off
good, we're
stage. So I think we're good.
We're going to ask some Q&As. Do you guys mind if we take a photo and send it to Jasper? Let's do that. Is that all right? You just have to wave and turn around, Katie. Here we go. We're going to do a selfie.
This is a first.
Yeah, we've never done this before. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, yay! There you go.
Awesome. There you go. We've never done that before. That's super cool. We look all official up here with the bright lights on too. Like we look like we're really big deal kind of people.
How good is this venue though? Yeah, no, we did. We were like, oh, this is a bit fancy. We were a bit nervous. We don't normally get nervous, but this is awesome. So questions. Anyone want to start the first questions? We find that that's the hardest one, the first one.
Yes, sir. Worried about the toilet paper with the composting toilet. How do we manage it? Yeah, absolutely. So with the composting toilets, they can take the toilet paper into the actual solids compartment. For anybody who doesn't know, the best thing about the composting toilets is that they separate your number ones from your number twos, makes it really easy. And you use, so for us, we use a natural coconut core peat as the medium to put into the solids compartment. You can buy it from Bunnings or Big W even. It's like $5 for this brick that's been like dehydrated, and then you just add a little bit of water to it and it fluffs up. And I'm going into way too much detail now. But anyway, when we're talking about toilet paper, we actually don't put our toilet paper into our composting toilet. We just have a little bin in the bathroom and it goes in there, and that obviously goes in with the general household rubbish when we're doing a rubbish run. And that way we just find that the life of that solids compartment lasts a lot longer and is a lot easier for us to be able to manage and change.
And again, it's just so much easier to manage that way. Yeah. Especially when you've got an 8-year-old who just, the toilet paper.
Exactly. At first, that can be a little bit confronting. We're talking about toilets, but it can be a bit of a change from being in a normal flushing household toilet. I liken it a little bit to travelling overseas to some of the Asian countries, Thailand in particular. Paul's brother lived over there for 15 years. We had many trips to Thailand, and my first trip I was quite like, what? I can't flush my toilet paper. But you just adjust and get used to it, and for us now it's just our normal.
Australia's incredible, isn't it? Like everything's magic, just
press a button.
Turn the tap on, It really makes you think when you're out there, to manage all of these things that we've been talking about and think about your consumption for sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
No? You guys are easy. That's awesome.
This is good. Maybe we covered everything.
Yes, we do. Great question. If you've got a setup where your four-wheel drive is not as heavy as your van.
Yeah, again, so not a field of expertise for us. So if I can answer from our experience, we would recommend that you don't do that. We would recommend that you try and get your vehicle to be 15% heavier than your van. The worst feeling that you want is for that tail to wag the dog. And we've experienced that in our... Yeah, it's not good, The one I think that you might be referring to was actually not to do with weights. It was the little weights that are on the balancing of your tyres. Yeah, and so...
on the Udnadada when we lost some of those little weights.
Okay, maybe. I can't remember. There's like 260 episodes. Yeah, okay, yeah. There was certainly one that in Tassie's a perfect example, incredibly well set up for RVing in any setup. They've nailed it down there, and Kate always says you're in it. You know how when you normally look at a mountain you go, wow, there you're surrounded by this incredible epic landscape. But some of the brake burners through some of that country, just, you're sweating, and you're holding on. And, if you've got just that little bit of rain, there's lots of roadkill and you slip, it can feel very unsteady. So I would think, really know your weights, get weight checked. Like Katie said, there's now 140 different caravan way mobile guys around the country. Huge business. and get that education. They'll be able to help you, and a lot of times, if it's not as expensive as getting a GVM upgrade or a GCM upgrade, but it could be as much as distributing your weight better, making sure that tow ball weight is 10% of the van's weight over that tow ball, things like that. But yeah, speak to the experts, I would suggest, and I would say if you can make your vehicle heavier, you'll feel a lot more comfortable.
Didn't we open a can of worms when we talked about getting a new tow vehicle? Yes, it's the ultimate debate whether we stick with Toyota or we look at an American truck.
Yeah, we don't have a clue still. Do you know what's amazing? Did anyone grow up watching Bathurst, Holden versus Ford? It's just my best memories with my dad, and screaming at Peter Brock to squish Dickie Johnson, And it's the same now. It seems there's a lot of brand bias for people out there. We've spoken to people that said, just get a Ram. What are you doing? Just get a Ram. And this guy next to him will just go, worst decision ever made. But what we found was that most people that tell you the bad story, it's not actually their vehicle, it's their mate's mates. It's interesting. So the people that have really told us their stories, that's all been really positive. So I think the challenge for us is going to be the cost. It's getting north of 180 grand for these vehicles, and they're amazing, and we're yet to test drive all of them, but there's like 15 on our list. So yeah, it's a huge challenge. We would love to see a vehicle that was just plug and play, and we would think that if you're a manufacturer bringing vehicles into Australia, if you got that right, you'd kill it. Instead of spending 20, 30 grand on upgrades, every vehicle that's out there, it's amazing. Yeah, there's so many pros and cons. We got suggested at the Gold Coast show to create a matrix, which was a really great idea. So we put all the categories across the top and then the 15 vehicles down, and then we just started researching, and that's helping us to narrow down a little bit. So everything from servicing, lead times, resale value after 100,000 kilometres.
Finding parts in remote areas.
Yeah. So we put all that across our top categories, and we're slowly working through that list.
It's a process.
Yeah, so short answer, haven't decided yet. We're Toyota biased for sure. But gee, those American trucks look good, don't they? They're just massive. But yeah, could be the cost, I think.
I drove one yesterday.
Oh, did you?
And sadly, I wasn't overly impressed.
Okay. There you go. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. Watch this space. We will definitely be upgrading, and it'll just be when we find the right fit for our family.
Any final question at all? Well, thank you so much. Katie and I are going to, I think...
We're headed over to the Let's Start Caravan Camping stage area where we'll be hanging out for a little bit. We are presenting over there at 2:30, but if you do have other questions, you want to come say hello or grab a photo, we will be over there, so come and find us over there. And thank you.
Thank you so much for your support. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, that's a big and. For the Victorian Caravan and Camping Supershow, the biggest and best and the most exhibitors and the Adventure Zone and the Kids Zone and the RV Master Stage and lots more. And only $20. Melbourne Showgrounds, February 19 to 23. Tickets at caravanshow.com.au.